So we are very, very fortunate and blessed to have some international and national guests here. And I will not introduce them myself. I will in fact allow our distinguished speaker to introduce himself so we can hear directly from Father Prakash, who's coming from India. And he is, of course, a Catholic, a Jesuit priest here. So the question that we first have before we even begin, what is a Jesuit priest from India? What is a Catholic ordained minister from India doing, traveling the world, speaking against the atrocities taking place in India by the BJP? How did you get involved? If you can give us a brief summary of your own life and your own involvement with what is going on in India.
Good. Shall I stand up?
It's up to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Qadhi. Thank you very much, my dear brothers and sisters, and all those who have gathered here. I feel it's a great joy and privilege. It's a great joy and privilege for me to be with you this evening. Thank you for so many of you remaining after your evening prayer. I'm a Catholic priest, a Jesuit. The Jesuit is someone who belongs to the Society of Jesus. We run in the United States very prestigious universities like the Georgetown University, the Loyola University in Chicago, Fordham, and several others across the United States. And I'm happy that from Ahmedabad I have at least one ex-product from our school, Jesuit school there. I'm a Catholic priest. I'm a follower of Jesus. And Jesus tells us very clearly to love one another and to do good to even to those who persecute you, to love your enemy, to go beyond loving only those who love you. So my point is very clear that as a Catholic priest, as a Jesuit, I'm here to propagate love, peace, harmony, tolerance, all the values that help to make our world a better place. But the point is I cannot do it if there is no justice, if the human rights of my sisters and brothers, very especially of my Muslim sisters and brothers in India, are not recognized, are not dealt with. And from 2003, when a close friend of mine, the great member of parliament was killed, and Shan Jaffrey, and since then, the way he was brutalized, the way he was killed, and I kind of took a pledge that this is not about vengeance, this is not about anger, this is not about hatred. Anger, hatred, vengeance, revenge, violence has no place in our world. But to be able to take a stand on any ideology, on anything which is wrong, which is evil, which goes against the basic tenets of humanity. Jesus taught me that, and peace be upon him, the great prophet also taught each one of us that.
So Father Prakash, I know that you had a role in speaking out against the Gujarat massacres, and I know that even your persona and life, even your safety was threatened. I know it's awkward because obviously you're a humble person, but we would like to hear, because from our perspective, we don't know their allies in other faith communities. So for the sake of educating us, if you can just explain what you did in the Gujarat riots and what was the repercussions on you and your own livelihood and persona. If you can summarize that for us as well.
Yeah, first of all, in all honesty, I must say, I'm not the only one. Many people did a lot. I tried to do something. Our center called Prashant became the hub of a lot of response to the terrible tragedy that engulfed Gujarat on the 27th, 28th of February 2003. More than 2,000 of our brothers and sisters, Muslims, were massacred, were killed, were raped, were brutalized, were dishoused, and today most of them cannot go to the place which they once called their home. That's a fact in Gujarat, and this is happening in India in Noah and in Gurugram the other day, in many other parts of India. We put together a Citizens Tribunal headed by Justice Krishna Iyer, and we have come out with a 3-volume document called Crime Against Humanity. I belong to the group called Citizens for Justice and Peace. Tisa Setalvad is the organizing secretary, executive secretary of the group. And many people, belong to this group, mainly as trustees. Basically, we are talking about 3 things in that. First of all, that crime against humanity was not a spontaneous act. It was foisted, it was perpetuated, it was encouraged, it was motivated by the person who today rules the country, none other than Prime Minister Modi. That's clear. There's enough of evidence to show that. And no one is denying it, whatever certain judiciaries say. Secondly, those who have been the victim survivors are still fighting for justice. These are poor, simple, ordinary human beings. They are waiting 20 years after, and we are still trying to accompany them in their relentless quest for justice. And the third is, which is very important, we have to address the system. A system which demonizes, denigrates, divides the other, which are characteristics of fascism. Fascism is very fundamentalist, is very fanatic. And this is what the Hindutva ideology is all about, and we try to address that.
So Father Prakash is being very humble. He has taken a very vocal stand, and it has caused backlash in his own life. He has had to suffer aspects in his own personal life as well for the sake of justice. And so he is an ally that we need to appreciate and support. So for those of us who are not aware, what is Hindutva? And is every Hindu a Hindutva? Or can we separate the two? Can we clarify to the people that haven't understood this ideology?
Yeah, Hindutva is an ideology. In a way, it has nothing to do with mainstream Hinduism, which is a way of life. Hinduism, in fact, is not an organized religion like Islam or Christianity, or, you don't have any rules, any tenets, and so on. It is the way you live your life as a Hindu. There are a whole pantheon of gods. We respect that. And over the years, the characteristics of Hinduism as a religion was its tolerance, was its ability to embrace other cultures. Hinduism itself has some intrinsic problems, like the caste system, and there is a rigidity in the caste system, and so on. But from the little over 100 years, from 1825, we have the emergence of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, the RSS. And there are their ideologues like Sarvarkar, Govalkar, Hegdewar, and so on, who kind of foisted on the minds and the psyche of Hindus that we should have a nation based on an ideology, the Hindutva ideology. It is one nation, one language, one culture, monoculture, and things like that. So anyone who does not subscribe to our ideology, very especially the others, meaning those who have religions who have come from abroad, the Muslims and Christians, these have to be treated as second-class citizens. And over the years, they did not succeed. Mahatma Gandhi fought against that ideology. He was killed by Godse, who was, in fact, belonged to the RSS. He belonged to the Hindutva ideology. But over the years, this ideology has permeated the rank and file of majoritarian India, and many people today regard one for the other. When you're talking about Hinduism, many people feel that it's Hindutva. And the way the minorities, very especially Muslims and Christians, you see what's happened in Haryana, you see what's happening in Manipur, are negated, are relegated as second-class citizens. So what we are fighting against is not Hinduism. I have very close Hindu friends, and many of my friends here do have. Hinduism, I think, like any other religion, is a great religion with great values. Let's appreciate it, let's celebrate that. But what we cannot accept is an ideology which goes against the basic core of being a human being. The dignity, the equality, the fact that all of us are made in the image and likeness of God and should be treated as brothers and sisters. That's what we are fighting against. That is what is non-negotiable, and that's what my appeal to you, my dear brothers and sisters, to fight against anytime, today and forever.
And just FYI, I gave a khutbah a few months ago about the BJP and Hindutva, and it is important to point out that the equivalent of Hindutva is Nazism. The Nazi ideology of Germany and the Hindutva RSS, they were appreciating one another. They were actually, the symbols of the Nazi party is actually coming from the Hindutva ideology. So Nazism is the same manifestation. Just like you cannot say every Christian is a Nazi, Nazism is a fascism within a faith. Just like Judaism and Zionism, they're not the same thing. So too, Hinduism and Hindutva, they're not the same thing. So what we are of course, as any faith, we would disagree with the theology of other faiths, but we can live and let live. But we cannot allow a fascist ideology from within to start dividing, to start preaching a level of intolerance that is essentially calling for genocide. So Father Prakash, I want to ask you, how is Hindutva? You are coming from another background. We hear about what's happening to the Muslims of India, and we see you and you're coming from another faith tradition. Is it also impacting you? And how is Hindutva impacting those of minority faiths? If you can give us some examples in law and in society, so that especially not everybody knows the Indian situation, if you can clarify to us, what is the danger of Hindutva as it currently stands?
See, what Hindutva is doing to India today is dividing India, breaking India, and segregating, India in terms of majority, the majoritarianism, and minorities. And at the receiving end are the Muslims. That's very clear. A simple thing, the whole hijab controversy in Karnataka. The amount of young Muslims who are lynched, who just because they are carrying cattle from one state to another, they are arrested by the vigilantes and they are killed. The point is, the greatest beef exporters in India are RSS people. They export beef to people all over the world. There is this whole question of say what you see. We are not allowed to see the BBC film. You can see it here in America. It's banned. In fact, they bring out these terrible movies like the Kashmir Files, the Kerala Files, and so on, that denigrate and demonize the average Muslim. And that's happening, and that's permeating into society. The Christians, you read what's happening in Manipur. While it's definitely a clash between non-tribals, the Maithis, and the tribals who are the Kukis, the fact is that over the years, most of the Kukis are Christians. It's a blatant attack of non-Christians who are Hindus, who are supported by the RSS regime, or the Chief Minister of Manipur, Modi and Amit Shah, and the attack has been consistent. You look at the amount of churches that have been attacked. So there is a vilification of minorities, the Muslims and Christians in India. There is, you tell a lie 1,000 times, as was done by Joseph Goebbels during the Nazi regime in Germany, and people will tend to believe it. All Muslims are like this, all Christians are like this. There is not a shred of evidence. There is the whole anti-conversion laws. There are people using the words like love jihad, which the other day, a very ordinary Muslim couple from UP were killed because their son ran away with a Hindu girl. They were in love, and they just disappeared. You look at the papers, and it has been permeating different levels of society. Unless we address this hate, unless we address this violence, unless we say no to Hindutva, which is a fascist ideology, we will perhaps never change India. But I'm a person of hope, and I have plenty of hope that we'll see a very different India in a few months from now.
So one final question before I turn over to Brother Rasheed. The final question to you is, what can we do here as American Muslims? How can we help the situation and bring about a sense of preventing this impending genocide?
Yeah, I think y'all can do several things. In a way, I tell my American friends, you all are in a comfort zone. I'm not saying that you do not have your own set of problems. You do have. But it's unlike the average Muslim in India. First of all, make people aware, especially of other communities, especially to the wider American community. What I hate to use, it sounds very racist, the white American community. They really do not know what. For Biden to give a red carpet welcome to Modi, I think it goes against the grain of human rights, of any decent civilization, leave alone great or big democracies. For that Howdy Modi to be happening in Houston, with Trump embracing and Modi canvassing for him, I mean, these things are not done. But how do you create synergies with a white American? Create friends and tell them this is what is happening in India. How do you get them to write to the congressmen, to the senators? Because just writing a letter and saying that this is happening in India does not help. Because finally, in the Bible we have, you either have to choose between God and mammon. Mammon is the material, the wealth, the power, the trade, the corporate sector, the arms and ammunition industry. And you see, the government of America will clearly take sides, not with God. They say, in God we trust, in God we trust, but will take sides with mammon.
Thank you very much, Father Prakash. Thank you very much. Wanted to just bring in as well Brother Rasheed Ahmed, who is the chair of the IAMC, the Indian American Muslim Council. I have cooperated with IAMC multiple times, and they have actually educated me immensely. The IAMC is the only national political association that is lobbying Congress here internally on behalf of Indian Muslims. And they are a organization that, despite their small size, they're doing amazing work. I have fundraised for them multiple times. So, Brother Rasheed, I want you to introduce IAMC, and also what can we do as American Muslims? You're the one who's involved in the political, sector now. What can we do as American Muslims to help prevent this genocide?
Thank you, Dr. Qadhi. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I think Father Prakash pretty much laid out how bad it is and why we should be aware of it, not just aware, but actually work to reduce this hate. The RSS and the hate, the lynching and killing is happening in India. I can see somebody might say that, oh, what we can do, it's happening in India. This hate and RSS is not coming to United States, it's already here. It left Indian shores formally in 1940, when all other Indians were fighting Britishers to gain independence. This organization decided to leave Indian shores and establish itself globally, starting in Kenya, 1940. You can Google, you will see all the history. And then when they arrived in United States, we don't know, perhaps around 1950s, 60s, like many Indians came. But what we know is that formally they have registered a organization, openly RSS supporting organization in 1971 in New York, with non-profit organization with a 501c3 status. So at least we can say they are here, organized since 1971. And we are talking about 52 years, over 50 years they are here in this country, organized, That was maybe the first organization, but right now they have hundreds, several hundred organizations across United States in various names, various aspects, and there is suspicion many of the temples support them. So now, why it is important to us here in United States? RSS and this ideology is not saying Rasheed is from Indian Muslims, so I want him to be dead or not be empowered. That's not the case. All they need to know is that if somebody is Muslim, that's enough for them. RSS agenda is against Muslims and Islam, not Indian Muslims. In India, obviously Muslims are there, so they are Indian Muslims because they are in India. But here in United States, they are against all Muslims. Please remember that. How do we know it? I'll give you examples. When last year there was a bill in Congress was introduced on Islamophobia, guess who opposed this vehemently? It passed in House overwhelmingly, but it got stuck in Senate because these organizations did whatever they did politically, and it got stuck in Senate and died. So Islamophobia is not against Indian Muslims. It was against all Muslims. You all know who is Ilhan Umar and Rashida Tlaib. If you go and see who supports the opposition candidates for Ilhan Umar and Rashida Tlaib, who wants to unseat them in primaries, these guys support those candidates, irrespective of who they are. They just don't want Ilhan Umar and Rashida Tlaib to win again. What do they have to do? They are not Indian Muslims. They are Muslims. That's enough for them. Keith Ellison, the first congressperson of this country, when he was running for Democratic Party, Democratic National Committee chair, the strongest opposition was from same people. He is an Afro-American Muslim, not an Indian Muslim. Then in Illinois, there is Masjid. We wanted to build a Masjid. They had so much strong opposition that it had to be delayed for 8 months, 10 months. They had to make some compromise in construction, all that. It increased the cost, delayed the process. Who were opposed? These guys. So that Masjid was not Indian Muslim Masjid. It was just a Masjid. I don't think they were worried that Muslims will pray 5 times in this Masjid. I don't think that was their concern against that Masjid. They don't want American Muslims to be organized. Masjid is the place where we organize primarily. And they don't want American Muslims to be organized. Why? They don't want American Muslims to be empowered. In Illinois, there was an advisory council from the state of Illinois. In that, the description, the characteristics, they define who can be appointed as advisors to that commission. In that, there was, in all that text, there was one phrase missing. The people who are appointed to this council should not be of quote-unquote Muslim characteristics. This is in Illinois. How did it happen? Because Muslims generally, or Indians or Americans, don't go into these things. If it is Muslim, they didn't get it. Finally, we came to know it after it passed. We did our work. It is now reversed. It's called South Asian Advisory Council, and all the language is cleaned up. So why we should be concerned about it, and why we should be doing something? Because among other things in society, politics impacts our lives in every way. This masjid needs a permission from politicians to build. From birth to grave, there is politics. Where you can have our cemetery, how we can bury them, all this is controlled by politics. If we don't have our input in the politics, best if we are not there in the politics, they will decide what happens in our lives. So, and these folks, this RSS, BJP, all these people are very focused on disempowering Muslim community here. One reason, perhaps, we can only speculate, we don't know their strategy, but one reason perhaps is there is no other community in United States, at least immigrant community, I'm talking about Koreans, Chinese, Polish, any other community, do not understand the differentiation between Hindus and Hindutva, so they can get away with murder in a sense, and B, the only community that can understand it and even reverse their political inroads is American Muslim community. Nobody else has much interest. If South Korean community here, South Korea and India has great relations. They don't care if Indians are in the politics or Indians are there, they will support them. It's only American Muslim community who can, should, and must take notice of it and reverse this trend of their political inroads. And American Muslim community overall, other than Indian Muslims, it's very hard for them to understand what is this Hindutva. So whose responsibility it is? Indian Muslims. If Indian Muslims don't take it serious, and if the Indian Muslims are praying with all other Muslims here, shoulder to shoulder, and this ideology is danger to them, for them, their children, their livelihood, their jobs. If we are praying with somebody next, another Muslim, and we know that Indian Muslims, I'm talking about Indian Muslims know that this brother or that sister is in danger, and we are not telling them, then it's our responsibility. So I ask all Indian Muslims to not just listen it and think it is bad. Please talk to it about all other American Muslims at least. Father Prakash says everybody, including white Americans. That's true, but at least start from American Muslims. So it is here, we need to do it. It is already impacting our lives. Our children, ask your children who are in universities if they are getting impacted or not. They are. They may not understand it, they are. So please pay attention and take some time to understand and do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair. I want to just conclude and add here, very bluntly. Brother Rasheed is saying Indian Muslims, and I'm going to be very blunt here. Yes, Indian Muslims at the forefront. Of course, it is mostly on you. But right after you, right behind you, alongside you, there must be Pakistani Muslims as well, Bengali Muslims, Nepali Muslims as well, especially us in particular, because the fact of the matter is the ethnicity, the culture is the same, the language is the same, the region is the same. We are all from that heritage, and we understand better than our Arab Muslim brothers. They don't understand these differences between. We understand because we have lived that reality. So it is fard kifaya on all of us to be ambassadors about what is going on here. I mean, again, I have given many lectures and khutbas, but in the global scene, right now, India is at the #1 potential for genocide. And it is going to take place primarily against the minorities. And who is the #1 minority in India? It is us. #1 region of potential genocide. May Allah protect, but if and when that straw on the camel's back breaks, if and when that happens, we are going to see something the likes of which we haven't seen since Rwanda, since we have even worse than Rwanda and whatnot. May Allah protect. So now is the time to get involved. Now is the time to raise our voice and to put any type of pressure, lots of dua, and the very least public awareness. So my appeal to all of us, and especially us from that region, but all Muslims, to study, to read, to listen to what's going on, to follow the news, and then to volunteer. If somebody wants to volunteer, how can they volunteer? What is the, if you can, so our brother here, inshallah, you can come up and inshallah talk to him afterwards directly, inshallah ta'ala. And
if I can take just 30 seconds. Please go on IIMC.com to understand this issue better and what IIMC is doing. And second announcement is we have our convention right here in Dallas, in your city, on October 14th this year at Plano Event Center, IIMC.com. You will get all the information. please promote it and buy your tickets, your tables, and sponsor it. This is one of the ways you can help immediately and really understand what's going on. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Rasheed, and thank you, Father Prakash, for coming here. And our two guests are here. If you want to come up and interact with them and ask them questions, you can do so now. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Qadhi. Thank you very much.
They're going to come back too. You can wait a few.
إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات والذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما.